Alright, I'm going to share with you why I don't think you should hug people when they're having an emotional release. And I'm going to share a little snippet of what I shared on my masterclass. It is an excerpt out of Peter Levine's book, Waking the Tiger, and how this interweaves to how we as humans respond to people who are having an emotional release. And more often than not, we're usually quite uncomfortable and we actually add to the suppression of emotions. And also a last minute reminder that today is the last day for the early bird to join the 6-week live release course where you get to learn all of this information in a condensed period of time. So you can head to my link in the bio, or it's courses.theartoflisteningtobody.com/release. Anyway, so why we shouldn't hug people when they are having an emotional release, and it is a very common response. And usually we do this because our own emotional cup is too full. And when our own emotional cup is too full, we've layered and layered and layered stuff from the past, we can't cope with other people's emotions. We feel uncomfortable. So we are very conditioned to react and respond, and that might be just going in to hug someone or to hand them the tissues and say, here you go, wipe away your tears, which I also don't recommend. When I used to see people in clinic and they were bawling their eyes out, I would say, there's tissues here if you want them, but it's actually quite good just to let them flow. Stop trying to wipe them away. Just let them flow and it will help that emotion release. Now, I use the example from Peter Levine's book called Waking the Tiger. I use it in quite a few of my masterclasses, and there was a little bit of serendipity that happened around this. So it is about the bird that hits your windscreen, but you don't actually kill it. You just stun it and it falls onto the tar seal. And the funny thing is that I was thinking of a particular lady from one of my previous practitioner trainings who just loves animals. She's got this whole sanctuary. The animals that get hit on the road get taken to her place. She's got all sorts of wildlife. And I was thinking of her as I was recounting this story, and I'll bring that in a little bit later. So basically, we are animals, and animals are a great way to understand how we release and how we discharge emotions and process things from events and traumas in our life. So if you hit this little birdie when you're driving along and you stun it, but you don't actually kill it, and it's flopped onto the tar seal, and you stop your car and you're like, oh my gosh, I hit this bird, I hope it's okay. And then all of a sudden you realize it's still alive because it starts flapping its wings, it's a little bit disorientated. And as a human who feels really bad that you've hit this bird, you go and pick it up. And you might wrap it up in a towel, or you hold it in your hand and you shush it down. You tell it, it's okay, just stop, it's all right. And it goes from its disorientated state to calming down, what we think is calming down. And then it starts flapping its wings and being all disorientated, and you go and pat it again and tell it to calm down, and you think that you're really helping this little birdie. So this is like someone having an emotional release, and we're like, oh, it's okay, shush, shush, you're okay. Emotional release in the sense of they're sad and they're crying, or they might be angry. So you're saying to them, don't be so angry, or people please you. Don't worry about it, it's all good. So you pat this little birdie and it calms down. But what happens is, I'm always encouraging people, the sooner you can process and express your emotions, if not in the moment, very soon after, the better off you will be. You won't store it. But the more you suppress it consciously, or if, say, someone gives you a hug and suppresses that emotion inside of you, each time your body feels safe to want to release, it's going to be harder to access the emotion. It's going to be harder for you to release. So the Peter Levine example is that this bird wants to release on this physical level, because we release physically, physiologically, and emotionally. It wants to release physically, but when, as the human, you shush it down, you're actually suppressing what wants to be released. The next time it wants to release, it's going to be harder, it's going to take a little bit longer. If you keep doing it to the little birdie, it's going to die of fright. So this is what happens with humans when they're having an emotional release, and if we go and hug them, we suppress that emotion inside of them. It's almost like telling them, I feel really uncomfortable with you emotionally releasing, so I'm going to do something, I'm going to give you a hug. Or I'm going to hand you the tissues and kind of tell you in a roundabout way, I'm not comfortable with your tears, so wipe them away. And when that gets suppressed inside of you, the next time you might feel safe and emotions start to rise, it's a little bit harder, it takes a little bit longer, so it actually prolongs the process. And then what I often talk about is the longer you keep on storing and layering more and more emotions from events and traumas in your life, that is when your emotional cup fills up, it spills over, and then you start to manifest with the physical pain, the chronic pain, the illness, the disease, the mental imbalances, or your sort of dysfunctional behaviors. So if I bring back to the story I was saying to you, when I was telling this story live on the masterclass, I was thinking of a particular lady who she rescues animals. She sent me a video because she said, oh my gosh, you'll never guess what. When you were telling this story, a bird hit our window and it was stunned and it was flapping all over the place, and my kids were going, Mum, we've got to go help that bird. And she said, no, just leave it. And she left it and it flew away and it was fine. So that was a great takeaway from the masterclass. But that's the thing, like next time if you see a little bird and you hit it but you don't kill it and you've stunned it and you see it's all really disorientated, actually just leave it alone. Let it discharge and release from this experience. Let it have its physical release of being really uncoordinated, flapping around. Maybe it has the physiological release where it poos on the tar seal. I don't know if birds have an emotional release, but you get the picture. And once it does its thing and it flies away, it goes on its merry way. Hopefully, if you haven't traumatized it or hurt it physically too much, it's not going to die. It'll go to live on. But it's just my example. Peter Levine is someone who does a lot of this work. He talks a lot about it. I think it's great to learn. I'm more about doing the thing, getting into the emotional processing. So next time, if you notice that you feel uncomfortable around someone who's having an emotional release, you want to walk the other way, you want to give them a hug, or you want to give them the tissues, and it feels uncomfortable, then consider what you need to process yourself so that you then have capacity and space to be able to hold space for someone having an emotional release. The other thing that you can do is actually just ask permission. Ask the person, can I give you a hug? Or do you want a hug? And hopefully if they're not trying to please you in their moment while they're processing their emotions, they will be able to give you an answer. But I think the key is to actually ask permission. Don't just do what we think that person wants in our moment of feeling uncomfortable. So encourage people to release their emotions. If you find it challenging to hold space for people, you need to process your own emotions from your previous events and experiences and traumas, if you feel safe and comfortable and if you feel ready. And then you will be able to hold space better for others. So, just a reminder that the Release Live course, the 6-week course, is starting next Sunday, which is where I jump on board and I teach you a whole bunch of stuff around emotional processing from the get-go, so you can start processing your emotions and have the support for all the crazy stuff that can happen. And I interweave my knowledge about Eastern medicine, Eastern philosophy, chakras to help you understand what emotions you might be storing in your body based on what sort of physical or behavioral issues you've got going on, even disease states, and then bring in the fascinating doshas to let you know how you're going to respond to this work. And it really interweaves. I am not letting you know how many people are joining this group. Last time we had 60 and it was amazing. I always just trust that the group is going to be right, but the early bird does finish at the end of today. If you want to join, you can still join afterwards, but you'll just have to pay a little bit more. And yeah, there's a good bunch of people. We've got a few guys this time, and as I said, we've got an amazing male support coach on board as well. And it is incredible what happens on these courses and the shifts and changes that people have in their life, the stuff that drops away on a physical and emotional level, and the things that open up. So There is practical strategy, but it's also very intuitive. You get individualized feedback based on how much you share in the group. We've got a Facebook group and also live calls where you can jump on and get coached and ask your questions. So it truly is amazing. I am so happy to be launching another round of this, but just a reminder that the early bird does end today. So I hope to see you in the group, in the release group. You can find it in the link in my bio or courses.theartoflisteningtobody.com/release. See you later.